Dobar dan I dobrodošli u Medija centar na debatu.
Good afternoon and welcome to the debate here concerning the integration of education and health in the Kosovo system. This is in question. Participants in the panel are Nenad Rašić, former Minister for Communities and Returns, and now formerly Deputy of the Assembly, and the President of the Party for Liberation Party, and the National Serb Party, and Nexhmedin Spahiu, University professor and an analyst. In the debate, as you know, the acting Deputy Prime Minister, Mr. Besnik Bislimi, was invited, but as you can see, he has not come. He did not confirm the participation, and he did not reply to our invitation. And it's not a novelty, and it's not the first time that the senior officials of the government are not replying at all to our requests or demands, be it for debates, shows, or interviews, or similar. But let us go back to the topic. Mr. Besnik Bislimi, as I mentioned about 2 weeks ago, spoke about the integration of Serb education and health into Kosovo system. He spoke for the implementation of the law on vehicles and the law on foreigners, for which he confirmed that until the 15th of March it is extended. So their implementation is extended, and this 2-month period should be used in maximum to start the process of fundamental integration of health and education system in the entire territory of Kosovo. And on the other hand, as it is known for Belgrade, such announcements represent an escalation situation. Petar Petković from the Office for Kosovo and Metohija said that the health and education institutions are the basic of Serb survival in Kosovo. We shall start from this topic. We shall start from Mr. Rašić. How do you value this statement for the integration of Serb health and education in Kosovo system, since you are a Serb representative within Kosovo institutions? Could you influence on this tempo of these announcements, and could you support it? And how do you reply to the fear of Serbs that this process is going towards unilateral elections? Thank you. Thank you, Budo. Professor, I'm very glad to see you here, dear friends, dear Swedish ambassador. Thank you, Budo, for that former. I was everything. X. What I want to say initially in regards to this topic, which is sensitive, and I can agree with Cvetković with one thing, that it is one of the among two main pillars, and I want to remind the previous movements in last year, when not only diplomatic representatives of the countries that have recognized Kosovo said that integration should be a must, and at the moment they said that it should be unavoidable. In such a sense, I personally, from the very beginning, I have insisted a lot of times for the start of preparation for what we call unavoidable. If this happens through finding different modalities that would be suitable for the Kosovo system, and in this I would like to remind everyone that each agreement or document, be they of technical or political character, it was always highlighted that the agreement shall be harmonized with the Kosovo constitution and laws. Now, what happened? Every event that takes place later shall be in this context, in line with the Kosovo's law and constitution. And I stress this because I would call it a kind of a status quo. It cannot be maintained, and we, the citizens that live and work here and who want to continue to live here, shall have alternative versions in order to continue to function in our work. Unfortunately, a short answer to this, if I can, concerning your first question, if we so far were included in such a process, the answer is simply no. No, we weren't, because according to the nature of the work, I have the possibility to meet different representatives, be they from the Kosovo office or international representatives. So far, we have no meaningful movement that I am aware of in regards to any kind of integration of this kind. Now, what we wanted to do in parallel to this is that the implementation of certain agreements that existed so far, and I, as usually, have announced and said that the form of this association or whatever it would be doesn't mean security for the institutions. And up to the document itself, the so-called the Berlin process, if you know that it was signed in 2022 and it foresees the recognition of diplomas, and I think they are more important. And my approach approximately 3 months ago was recorded in the minutes because it was signed in 2022. I think that the problem has to do with the relations between the two parties. This strong element of denying every right to the other party. And with this happened what happened some time ago, as you know. It culminated maybe with the two last law on vehicles and foreigners, and it has been established as a troop of experts, and I don't know who are the participants or members of this group, but lately with these elements that even today could be assessed very shortly. And I think that it concerns the responsibility of lines or responsibilities from the verification of diplomas, which according to me, it would be stressed as something very important for the creation and functioning and employment of young people up to the nostrification. I think that everything should be more transparent, and then concerning every other detail or whoever is involved in order to modify or rectify or advance them. This is it for now. If you have any questions, I will reply the questions later. And now we shall hear Mr. Biševac. How do you assess the announcement of Kosovo government for the integration of Serb education and health? Where do you see the main risk for the Serb community if these announcements are implemented without the consent of Serbs in Kosovo, respectively the official Belgrade, and if you consider that there is room for negotiations or discussions, and under what conditions your party would be ready to take part in it. We heard Mr. Rašić. He said that although he was in the institution, he did not talk to it. Did you talk to this concretely? Not. Thank you. Good afternoon to everyone. Concerning the integration, I can say that in the last 12, 13 years is the most dear word of the Serb. Everybody's speaking about the Serb integration in Kosovar system. But what does integration mean? It means unification, the creation of a new thing, although we did not have such a thing, and we know what were the conditions when the agreements were signed. Then ministries and everything, and we can see that even today they are not employed and they don't have a job. This was only a disbanding of institutions. We can say that the current Serb list and the government in Serbia headed by Serbs, if they should be integrated or not. It should not be implemented by force in Kosovar system. We know that Pristina for years called these institutions parallel ones, but we can say that Serbs say that we do not have a parallel hospital in the north. We do not have a parallel school, but we have a school and health institutions where Albanians and Serbs are being cured or healed. And the public should know this, so that this process has not started now and it cannot be concluded within 2 months, and everything would be in contradiction to the interest of our people. I think that this would cause exodus. I know the stands or positions of Albanians. Serbs would rather leave the country than accept this educational system, and nobody is speaking anything else about it, but only about the education program. And a lot of time is needed for this. And citizens should know that the process has not started now, because we have coordination between Kosovo institutions and Serb institutions that function here. And we know, for instance, Kosovo police issued reports that it takes hospital prisoners to Mitrovica hospital, and they allocate the financial means to these health institutions. They arrested even people who were hired in Kosovo system. So this process has not started today. Unfortunately, it has never been concluded, and it was never said how it should be done. What we should do in the future is that the Kosovo government should understand these problems, so in order to impact at Kosovo government to find a way how institutions be distinguished as irrelevant. We have the law on local government, Article 30, which speaks of cross-border interaction and extended responsibilities of municipalities. For instance, Mitrovica North was given the possibility to establish health institutions and the educational system. These systems should be legalized, and I think it is impossible to do this in 2 months. It is impossible to integrate something within 2 months. It would cause difficulties of the situation on the ground, and the people are losing their autonomy. These institutions should have their own autonomy and function in these territories. These institutions cannot function without Belgrade, and we are all aware of this. In fact, it should be discussed clearly and openly in Brussels. We are pawns of a kind of a dialogue that is going on behind the closed doors, and nobody has explained to us if there is any agreement. Nenad Rašić mentioned that there is a kind of an agreement, but nowhere in Brussels agreement it says that there should be an integration process of these institutions. I apologize that we do not have any representative of Srpska lista or Serb list. I think that I am against this for the institutions to be integrated in this way. We should find a better modality, and this would be the first example that these institutions should function as legalized, but they should not be integrated by force. Thank you. Thank you, Milija. Just let me remind you, health and education are mentioned in the Brussels Agreement of 19th of April through Serb municipalities. It is clearly said that Serb association would have responsibility in the area of health and education, spatial planning, and economic development. Through this, Mr. Spahiu, this means, in fact, a kind of a start of creation of the Association of Serb Municipalities, if you think this would be done unilaterally, by force, as Milija said, or with a wider consensus, as many other institutions have been abolished recently, or somebody will talk, or the Association of Serb Municipalities will be that part of the integration process. Is integration of education and health in Kosovo system? I see it as a pre-preparation for the establishment of the Association of Serb Majority Municipalities in Kosovo. In fact, Ahtisaari Plan and Kosovo Constitution and the current law on education and health sees an autonomy of health and education for the Serb community in Kosovo. The government so far, although it seems that it had arrogant behavior, in fact, it did not violate the Kosovo law and constitution so far. Many times it did not agree with the decisions of the Constitutional Court, but it implemented them. And I don't believe that it will overcome these in the case of the integration of education and health of Serbs in Kosovo. We have a situation where Kosovo institutions, Kosovo government, allocates money for health and education to Serbs in Kosovo, but it does not have a supervision as to how many personnel are engaged there. It has a number based on which it pays money, but they do not know if those teachers, be they lower school teachers or upper school teachers, whether they work or not. There is no supervision on this about what it finances, which is quite normal. So when you finance something, you should know what you are financing. The second one, concerning the appointment of the responsible personnel, for instance, of the director of Pristina University seated in Mitrovica, University in Serbian. By Kosovo law and constitution, it should be done by the mayor of Mitrovica North. Meanwhile, in the formal side, this is not respected. Concerning the governing body of this university. Why am I saying it's a pre-preparation for the Association of Serb Majority Municipalities? Because Kosovo government, I believe, it does not want to promote the association when the situation is beyond what has been foreseen at the competences of the association. So it doesn't want to be in a situation when you raise the flag of the Association of Serb Municipalities. This situation should be in conformity with what has been described in the draft statute of the association proposed by the European Union, and not beyond or outside it, in order not to have problems afterwards between the association and the central institutions of Kosovo. I believe the word is for this kind of integration of health and education of Serbs in Kosovo. Many people ask why the government of Kosovo does not establish the association, or why it hasn't established it so far. Why hasn't it done these processes so far? The issue of association is another aspect, another agreement between Kosovo and Serbia, where the exchange, where the Serb autonomy is exchanged through this or this kind of level of Serb autonomy, with the recognition de facto and de jure of Kosovo by the Serbian state through the establishment of a representation office, permanent diplomatic representation office of Kosovo in Serbia and of Serbia in Kosovo, which means, in fact, an embassy. In a way, Kosovo government wants, when Kosovo flag is raised in Belgrade, in the permanent diplomatic representation office and Serbian flag in the representative diplomatic office in Pristina, to raise at the same time the flag of the Serb Municipality Association in Serb majority municipalities as foreseen by the statute proposed by the European Union. And this should be done at the same time from the formal and visual aspect. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Spahiu. Your Majesty, Mr. Ambassador, how do you assess the actions of Serb government concerning the integration of Serbian health and education? Do you consider that it is acceptable to start such a process without the content of a community that it touches directly? And what would be the minimal conditions, according to you, that should be met before parties start to implement this kind of process?
Panelists, when Sweden recognized Kosovo in 2008, we of course recognized all of the 38 municipalities in Kosovo. We believe that the Kosovo law should be applicable in all 38 municipalities. I think that integration is bound to happen eventually on these issues. I took note of Acting Prime Minister Albin Kurti's announcement a few days ago that 50 Kosovo Serbian doctors have received licenses. That is a good sign, and I hope that the acting government will continue looking into these matters as well. But because of Kosovo being one of the most democratic states in this part of Europe, they also have certain obligations to make sure that all the citizens will receive health and educational services, including their in line with their local communities' demands. I think the most important thing here is that we will have no disruption in the services when it comes to health and education. That is extremely impossible. Then there are so many technical details in this when it comes to education, for example. Different curriculums. There are different number of school years in the systems. So I believe that this should be done, of course, in dialogue, to answer your question, in dialogue with the local communities. It should also be done in dialogue with the European envoy, Peter Sørensen. We believe that this should be done within that dialogue. The timing is never right in Western Balkans, it seems. But the European Union just lifted the measures against Kosovo after 2.5 years. Sweden belongs to one of those member states who, for the past years, have been trying to advocate that it should be lifted. And this just happened a month ago, and so now we believe the focus should be very much in Pristina on forming a government, constituting a parliament, elect a new president. But like I said, this should be done in dialogue, not only with the local community, but also with the EU envoy, Peter Sørensen.
Odnosno Beogradom, zapravo.
Respectively Belgrade. Kosovo government does not talk with Serbia that much.
I will leave that up to Peter Sørensen, the EU envoy, how he would like to structure that dialogue.
Dobro, hvala. Evo, ambasador je pomenuo, prevod je...
Thank you. The Prime Minister Kurti said that the Chamber of Doctors has licensed 15 doctors.
Malo, evo sad ćemo da krenemo. Čovjek, pričamo, konstatujemo šta je Kurti rekao, da je Lekarska komora Kosova u posljednjih 6 mjeseci licencirala oko 50 lekara iz srpske zajednice. Sad ovdje nije ni gospodin Kurti, ni Bislimi da ga pitamo, ali je to rečeno. Tako da izvolite, hvala panelistima na ovim uvodnim izlaganjima. Izvolite, li imamo pitanja? Živojin.
Thank you to everyone. I see 3 levels of problems. The first one is the context, the second one is the capacity, and the third level is reality. So, the context, capacity, and reality, shortly. The context. In the context, there are institutions that even before the war had a multi-ethnical character. Above all, health, which was killed in 1999, and I will mention Professor Radomanovic, who has been kidnapped from his workplace in Pristina. The repression over health is lasting up to today, not to mention the 17th of March and some other events. The educational system has been exterminated from the moment when Professor Lekovic had a nail in his head. The question is how to be integrated in this kind of context. Where is the right from everyone that suffer from repression, who they should seek integration for a system? How did we come to this idea? This is passing through these three levels. I understand that Serbs are forced, they are pushed towards the Stockholm syndrome, and this is our reality. Please stop these two fatal processes, because it has been shown that all processes that lead to this kind of violent integration leave catastrophic and long-term consequences. We had Kosovo sui generis. Now we have crime sui generis. Tomorrow you shall have a Greenland sui generis, and dear ambassador, you shall think what is happening with the health in Sweden and so on. So I ask you above all, because you decide, stop the fatal processes in which one community is exterminated. Serb community has been constituted about health and education in ghetto. Now they are in a ghetto, and this community shall be exterminated or diminished. These are the terrible messages that you say. They are an administrative reality, but not a life. You can say no one to get integrated into a system that cannot establish its own assembly. You know, we are realists. What shall they lecture based on which system they shall be working? Who shall they cure? I am from a medical doctor family. I have cured Albania during all these years. You know. And what shall we win with this integration? Abolishment. Understand this, they attract the attention. As Nexhmedin said, stop the processes, stop the bad integration processes in these two cases. Thank you. Unfortunately, it's $1 million question. Thank you. Does anybody want to answer on what Živin said? Živin, you have a lot of arguments, and we understand what you are talking about. Unfortunately, it was said more expressively, and we have inherited such a process, and we cannot manage it. I shall reiterate the words that I said, that we were left aside, and unfortunately, from the refusal of our participation in this decision-making process, which still continues. And I said earlier that I have no information about some active actions that have started, and I always blame the heritage, which is not ours, but of Serb Lista, in this case, which insists to work destructively against its own people, and it's incredible. What is happening, unfortunately, according to all means, shall be left without the direct influence of people like you or whoever that could impact constructively. And our fate, it's our bad fate. This is what we inherited from somebody else. Let one thing be clear. It's very important. Nobody has spoken about the integration of Serb education and health in the period before. I just wanted to clarify it. No, Mike. This will not happen in the period that is mentioned in the two laws, whose deadline is up to the middle of March. I think it shall be because of this connectivity they will be more careful. And at the moment, that's why I said in a transparent way, all the people shall be informed as what is going on. And with education and Živojin mentioned, I remind you that it still exists in the part of a package. When we see curriculums or teaching programs, there should be a commission which has never existed. It should be composed of 3 Albanian experts. It was 15 years ago. It never functioned. Okay, maybe I used an inappropriate word. So we should open these legal mechanisms from Kosovo side because we have authorization. I can speak only within this. This kind of mechanism can be used as a protective system or a shield or whatever form to prevent that an escalation does not happen whenever it is spoken about the laws, especially about education and health. Yes, Nexhmedin. I forgot to say at the beginning that the law on education in Kosovo cannot be changed without the 2/3 of the majority. It means in this case 2/3 of the representatives of minorities in Kosovo, and in the actual case the law on education cannot be changed without the will of the Serb list. What is it spoken about is to bring the situation within that law, not to go beyond that law. Thank you. When you said some time ago that in Brussels agreement there are those points, but there is the point for the association of the Serb Association of Municipalities. We mentioned Mr. Albin Kurti earlier, and I have said many a time that he does it because of the political populism, that he imposes tensions in this instability that Kosovo government is. I agree with Mr. Rakočević that this is a very serious topic that should not be in that topic. Mr. Spahiu mentioned the law on education. If you go to the American school and see if they are in line with the Kosovo Constitution, there are some provisions that are not according to the law, but they function because of this. I consider that if they are harmonized with Kosovo law, health and education systems would go towards harmonization with Kosovo law, and it would cause many problems. Mr. Ambassador mentioned that the classes are not the same, the curriculums are not the same, and it frightens our population even more. And no Serb wants to learn the history that was created in Pristina recently. As I mentioned, the consequences, if we go into this issue, the consequences can be only the displacement of these people. And somebody wants to instill panic for the people to leave this country. The ambassador wants to, they mentioned this issue. If international community sees the risk of this announcement from what was spoken by Mr. Rakočević, that could happen, the dissimulation of a nation, or we would have a further destruction of Serb trust in Kosovo institutions and a further destabilization of the relationship in the ground.
Thank you. Well, I must underline that everyone who's a citizen of Kosovo and living in Kosovo have to follow Kosovo law. And that goes, of course, both ways. As some of my panelists said, there are some municipalities who have extended authority, like North Mitrovica, Rašić, and Pristina. But in this case, we have North Mitrovica will be applicable, right? So they have extended competencies. I think Mr. Biševac mentioned this, right? There's both an Nexhmedin plan, it's on the law and local self-government, also mentioned in a number of sectorial laws. And these extended competences is applicable on secondary healthcare, secondary education, protection of Kosovo Serbian culture and religious heritage, etc., etc. And that, of course, needs to be respected, and that's why I was saying this needs to be done in a dialogue with local communities. It also needs to be done with the elected mayors in all the municipalities in Kosovo. The government of Pristina would need to respect the elected mayors in all the 38 municipalities. Thank you.
But in that context, Mr. Ambassador, would you support the postponement of this process until we secure this from the population and give clear guarantees when it is spoken of the Serb community rights?
I think that question should be addressed to Mr. Nenad Rašić. I think you represent the government here. I'm not the Prime Minister. I'm a guest in this country. I think there should be a dialogue with the local communities. There should be a dialogue with the EU envoy on this matter.
Dobro.
Thank you. Any questions? We cannot hear the speaker. The ambassador said that the integration of health and education should be done through dialogue between the Kosovo government and local population and Serb representatives. But how do you see this? It seems that the dialogue, since Kurti is in the government, it does not exist in the Serb community. Although in the previous election campaign he promised internal dialogue, it has never started. Although in some cases he said that it is going on behind closed doors and the others cannot see it. And the second one, how do you see this dialogue between Kurti and Srpska Lista? Since there is no communication in addition to both accusations on both sides. And the second one for you, Mr. Rašić, how don't you know who is in the group of experts for the implementation of these two laws? For the foreigners, and how is it possible, I can say, the Serb list and Petkovic accuse you that you are very close with Kurti. When shall we learn about the people who are in the group of experts that has been established by the international community? The government of Kosovo says that it has been created by the government. When people that live here and they pay taxes and they have ID cards, when shall they learn what they expect? Who is the question for the ambassador or for Rašić?
Well, once again, both of those questions should be posed to the government of Kosovo, and we happen to have one of the incoming ministers here, I believe. So, but I believe that the government has expressed an interest to have a dialogue on this particular issue, and that will be underlined by the international community. I think that should be, that should also be the case for any other municipalities in Kosovo. And the same for your second question. Those are quite similar in a way, because when it comes to Srpska Lista, I assume that any government in Pristina will work with all the 38 municipalities, and that they should respect all the 38 elected mayors.
As I initially said, and it was quite clear, I do not know who is a member of this group. Let us call it the group of professional experts, because facilitators or supporters, as European diplomats want to say, was the EU envoy whose task is from both who should have representatives from both parties. I heard this from him. I did not hear this from Mr. Kurti or from anybody else or any Serb representative, whoever, be it even from Srpska Lista. I don't know if this is the reason why. Because of the technical knowledge, especially when we spoke of the two laws that I mentioned earlier, because these expert commissions have been established for the law on vehicles and immigration. The group that you mentioned has not been established yet. I said at the beginning, I do not know who is working in the development of the system and the manner of integration of health and education. Thank you. All right. Yes. Milutin Radojevic, I have two questions. One is for the ambassador, who said that Kosovo is the most democratic country in this part of the Balkans or Europe. And I want to know, how does he assess the beatings of people in the north? The first question. And the second question for Mr. Rašić, he said that the law on foreigners should be implemented from the 15th of March, and it will not affect education and health. Health and education will be integrated a bit later, but how do you explain that this law will impact on teachers and students when we know that they can stay for 3 years and then come again after 90 days?
Ajde, Rašić, gospodin Rašić.
Da, rekao sam da je ta grupa napravljena, da sam informisan, koja će raditi baš na tom lakšoj implementaciji. Podsjećao da sam pre nekoliko dana, pokušao onako ljudskom terminologijom.
I tried in human terminology to invite or to mention by name all the persons that that were part of the process and they have never reported, I mean of the Serb list. And the technical group, I do not know their names. To be frank, I know that they are working in a faster implementation of the law. Informally, we know that there will be regulations that shall regulate the coming of our compatriots. But it's not my mandate. It's not part of my job. I'm not part of this technical group, and I cannot speak of this because I wouldn't like to share wrong information. But we have some parts that I have heard of. That could be a solution for those students, be they students of doctors who would come and go. So the problem can be resolved and, how to call it, support, or the government, or the facilitation by EU in the context of both parties. I think it's something that can be resolved. And I think it will be a sustainable solution. Mr. Ambassador, do you have anything to reply concerning the most democratic country?
Well, I believe I said in English it's one of the most democratic countries in these parts of Europe. Any beating up atrocities against anyone is deplorable. And I think when it happens to a minority, it's of particular concern. I think that you would need to take that into account. We are saying that we need to have the Kosovo Serbian prosecutors, judges, and the police officers to return to the 4 majority areas as soon as possible. I think that will be helpful. When you have a local community, you need to have the trust between the police and the local community. Having said that, not everything is perfect, but I understand that I know of several cases where there have been proper inquiries into maltreatment, and that the Kosovo police officers have no longer be in the service while an inquiry is ongoing.
All right, thank you. Is there any other question, Mr. Trajkovic? You had something to say on this topic? What would be the consequences or the advantages of integration? Frankly, I would say outside the protocol that right now, with the current information that I have, I am more optimistic that what was mentioned by Živorad and Jovica, that it should be a kind of a level of tolerance that the government should have towards this problem. Maybe it's a bad word, the level of tolerance, but I want to adapt it to the level of that function in these animosities that have been established, not thanks to our actions, unfortunately, but we have inherited it from the conditions that were abnormal. So we came to which says we were not able to establish the government, but there shall be more room for constructive ideas. If the Prime Minister will not tell them within my capacities, whatever they be, I will try to open doors for those that would like or to propose as a kind of a systematic solution that would help all citizens, and above all Serbs, who are rightfully considered the most discriminated ones on certain bases, especially for people who do not know these processes. and maybe me, Ambassador, we knew them from the technical agreements in 2013 and up to the last ones and beyond our knowledge. And I think that the essence in this, and I'm good that Mr. Trajkovic is here, and our inclusion should be more dynamic, and we should be more voiced than we were so far, or not as it was the case. I would say the frozen representatives of Serbs that work in ATM and use this practice for 12 or 13 years, and they have very low responsibility and accountability for us. And I think that advancement may take place. Do you expect that Mr. Trajkovic and Živojin be included in these talks? I did not think it. I did not mention it, not explicitly. Yes, why not? I think that these people have a wide experience in every social domain. But don't turn the topic into a political issue. Mr. Trajkovic, I would like to help such people in the context, not political, but the administrative side. This is something that I would like to happen. These conclusions could be included, and they can be critical against me, but I would like people to know what we want. This would be one of the simplest things that I would like to happen. Mr. Spahiu, concerning the programs, we mentioned the curricula as to what Serbian students shall learn. I believe that in the current law on education, they are guaranteed they can learn according to Serbian curricula, and not to force Serb students to learn Albanian, such as we have schools in Bosnian or in Turkish, that they have the topics. But in my opinion, it would be good that Serbs in Kosovo learn the Albanian language and the Albanians learn the Serbian language because they will need it in order to communicate among themselves. But it's not the word about it, because with the current law, which cannot be changed without the two-thirds, they are to study according to Serbian curricula or plan programs. This is another topic. There are 5 to 6 subjects, and we should have some rectifications. And there is a commission that Mr. Rašić mentioned, but there is another topic. Yes? I would like to link with Mr. Ambassador, and I would not agree. I understand his influence, and as he said, he is a guest but Serbs in Kosovo should not lean only on the government, because we know the consequences and what happened in the past as to what trust Serb community has. And we know how endangered they are. Because, as I said earlier, different populist movements have been going on, and I don't think that trust can be built in this way. Serbs are betrayed by Belgrade. As I said earlier, local Serbs have never taken part in negotiations. They do not know about their fate or what their fate is. And as they hear from their compatriots, they consider that Belgrade has silently supported integration. So I would like you to, the EU was the guarantee of the peace and I would like, if you have any possibility to exert influence to postpone things until the moment when we have a clear trust between communities where we could all live together like in Sweden. And I would link with diplomas, and I would say that there are a lot of problems there. Kurti said that there are those diplomas, but I think that they got licenses. Absolutely, I agree with this. I think that they came as well. And the dialogue behind the closed doors. To recognize a diploma in Kosovo that you were before 1999, those people have completed their studies and now they are over 55. And for their diplomas to be agreed, to be recognized. And this process has stopped. This is the problem, and I consider that things should be resolved step by step, procedurally, and not hastily, as they say. I would say you, as foreign representatives, can influence on the minister not to frighten the population with the populist statements. It's interesting. Yes, Mr. Ambassador.
Of course, people are concerned about a change like this, especially when it comes to education. That involves children, right? And that's very sensitive. It involves curriculum. That's also extremely sensitive. Remember that the EU reacted strongly against the government of Kosovo with measures. This was during a war in Europe when everyone was really focused on Russia's aggression against Ukraine. Still, the European Union in Brussels focused very much on Kosovo and the situation in north of Kosovo. I don't believe that you can say that you have been neglected by Brussels. On the contrary. So bear this in mind. All concerns should be addressed by the government. There, as I said in the beginning, there are several of these issues that need to be addressed. There are several questions when it comes to certificates, diplomas, the school and the teachers' work permit. Those needs to be addressed by the European Union in Brussels and by the international community here. When I say that I'm the guest in this country, I'm also saying that I'm not the EU envoy for this. So I will hand this over to Mr. Sørensen for this. There needs to be lots of information campaigns about this as well. That is an obligation by any government to do this. But I agree with you that there are lots of issues that needs to be discussed and resolved. Thank you.
Thank you. If there is no further question, this is all. We agree that the things should be discussed. I don't know how much we contributed to explaining the situation and how we shall continue with organizing talks and debates on this topic. And I hope that sometimes we shall have key people who can reply to our questions. I mean, people from the Kosovo government, Srpska Lista, and Belgrade. Thank you very much to all of you. I would like to thank the participants, and I wish you a pleasant afternoon. Thank you.